As I've mentioned, deals don't come in daily, but when they do, they come in at such a large rate, it really changes the trajectory of Palantir stock, the revenue, and its valuation. It's been a couple weeks since I said your last chance for Palantir at $9. Well, today I have some massive news and an update on Palantir we need to talk about. The US Army Research Laboratory has expanded its existing contract with Palantir Technologies. The contract extension will bring Palantir's operational RDT and E work and more users globally. The company will continue to implement data and artificial intelligence / machine learning capabilities for users across the combatant's commands. And guess what, guys? The contract is worth $99.9 million over 2 years. What a massive contract Palantir extended. As I've mentioned, deals don't come in daily, but when they do, they come in at such a large rate, it really changes the trajectory of Palantir stock, the revenue, and its valuation. Or better yet, this isn't really a deal that came in. This is just a customer doing more business with Palantir. And I'm not surprised at all. The government is going to continue spending more with Palantir because they are an essential service. I really believe Palantir has potential to deliver a 20% or higher compounded annual growth rate while changing the future and being a revolutionary company that's innovating. For me, that's a high growth stock that is a must hold. I'd rather hold a compounding multi-bagger stock for a decade than buy an average stock for a big discount. That's not really going to get you to your goals. You'll get far richer with the first mentality by going for the multi-bagger, really high compounding stocks that are going to rise over a longer stretch of time. You have to be patient, but it makes way more sense to be in that type of stock. That's how I compounded my wealth by age 27. It did not happen overnight. It took me some time, but check it out. Portfolio is $1.4 million. This was all through investing. The biggest reasons to be bullish on Palantir are that it has a massive total addressable market that it has only just begun to scratch the surface of. Palantir has an enormous total addressable market of over $120 billion and should see that number rocket higher in the coming years. This is because the global big data industry, in which Palantir is rapidly becoming a major player, is projected to experience a 20.4 compounded annual growth rate through 2030. Assuming its total addressable market grows in line with the broader industry, Palantir's total addressable market should be at least 600 billion by the end of 2030. Next, it has a wide moat with their government-focused niche. It is growing rapidly with the existing and new commercial customers via innovative products. Gotham's business competitive positioning in the departure of defense is Palantir's golden arches. Between building relationships of trust over the past 2 decades by successfully producing products and features for various government agencies and ultimately satisfactorily executing missions that are critical to national security. I'm going to get into the technicals and show you some options in just a second, but the next reason is that Palantir is such a big deal in the government business. Number one, the government is a not-profit driven and often excessively wasteful. So relationships with key decision makers are often more important than the actual financial figures involved. This makes government contracts typically very lucrative for vendors. In fact, it doesn't get any more lucrative than working with the government because they're blowing so much money on defense. Number two, when it comes to these important missions with national security and or lives on the line, trust and proven performance are far more important than scraping for every last dollar or even the latest technological innovations. This is where brand, results, and relationships really meet with Palantir. As a result, Palantir has a huge leg up over the competitors because US government decision makers will almost always pick the vendor that their personnel are familiar with and trust over vendors they do not know as well, even if their offer is more compelling from a value standpoint. This is why I hope that you join me for option trading, because I've been option trading for almost a decade. I have the skills and experience, and hopefully you see that I don't post YouTube videos because of the money. It's because I'm really passionate and I love helping people. Now, I do want to point out there are some issues with Palantir. I'm not just a bull that ignores warning signs. The stock has been beaten and then relatively pinned down due to being a high revenue growth and innovative tech stock in a time that is not so nice to those high innovative and growth tech stocks. Palantir and stocks of companies that are similar to it are often extremely expensive in the early stages of being public. They usually lose money and fight to grow sales, then eventually work towards break even, positive cash flow, and eventually EPS positive cash flow as well. The thing is that you really cannot value these stocks on an earnings basis because the earnings are either not there or it's way too early to look at the stock based on earnings terms. New things are harder to predict than old things. So valuation is confusing. Even in the high single digits, the stock is expensive on most valuation measures. But let me remind you guys, keep this in mind, it's super important. Amazon, Tesla, and all the other great stocks that made investors rich also never made sense. If you can get over some of the negatives, Palantir is the buy of the decade potentially. Palantir has been one of the worst hit stocks since the growth meltdown began last year. That gives it the possibility to double and triple in price. The market seemed crazy about Palantir when the stock was at 20 or 30, but it's not fond of Palantir these days. Why? So weird. Markets are crazy. My experience tells me that markets are crazy in the short term, but that happens over and over again in cycles. It's only a matter of time when things will shift. Palantir will show some exceptional growth and investors will get a hard on for the stock. Also, consider this. Palantir should deliver roughly 2.6 billion in revenues next year, placing its forward price to sales multiple at approximately 7. This is about the same price to sales as Apple. Either Apple is very overvalued or Palantir is cheap because the growth for Palantir is much higher. In fact, by 2027, I expect Palantir's revenue to more than double. Utilizing the company's projected 30% growth rate through 2025 and a slight drop off through 2027 gets us an approximately $7.3 billion in revenue in 2027. The 7 to 9 times forward sales multiple projections are not high considering what I just mentioned about Apple being about the same. So Palantir should also be valued roughly 7 to 9 times on a forward price to sales ratio. That means in 2027, the stock market cap will be roughly $50 billion, a 2.5x on your money from here. So over the next 12 to 24 months, I expect the stock to start to adjust closer to this valuation. Let me show you how I've been making money on Palantir safely on a weekly basis using options. So here's Palantir stock. It's currently trading for $10.32. The earnings call is really coming up very fast in just 6 days. This is a great thing because when we go over to the options, you'll see that the implied volatility is high. All that means is volatility is high, premiums are high. Premiums are high, lots of money to be made on selling options. So it is a win-win for the investor when there's earnings and more volatility if you are selling options. As an option seller, you love volatility. It's like happiness, right? It's like amazing. I'm gonna make more money because everyone else expects a bigger move. Now, there's some more risk. However, there is so much money to be made. But first, I wanna show you my history. I wanna go through my history of Palantir because I've been very successful in the Discord community and I've posted many trades that I've won. And I first of all wanna show you what they are so we can basically do something very similar. All right, here we go. You guys can see here that I sold a Palantir 8.5 put option for $722 and it ended up expiring and I made $130. I wanna do something very similar to this. Now that you know that I've sold the 8.5 put and in a Discord community, I've mentioned selling the 9 put many times as well. Now we're at $10 per share. I'm gonna look at what current options are attractive for selling on Palantir and especially going into earnings. We're gonna have to be careful, but I still know that there's a lot of money to be made even if Palantir stays at $10 per share. Because my favorite strategy is selling put options. Selling put options can be very expensive, but for Palantir, it's not very expensive. So for example, if we sell the 9.5 put option, it only requires $950. However, the return here isn't that high. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna go from August 5th to August 12th. I'm gonna give myself 2 weeks. Now for 2 weeks, the premium is much higher. The reason for that is not only does it capture in earnings, but it's also an additional week of waiting. And options are worth money because of their time value. When people wait, they expect something to happen. And because something is going to likely happen via the stock moving up and down, as an option seller, you get compensated more because you do have more risk. However, Palantir is at $10.32 and your only risk is having to buy Palantir at $9.50. But given my analysis and my bullish view on Palantir, that is a great price to get into Palantir anyways. Not only is $9.50 a great price to get into, but you also get paid $35. $35 might not seem like a lot, but it's actually about a 4% return. Now, if I expand this option right here, the 9.5 strike, I want to analyze this section for you right now. I typically will analyze delta, but I want to give you a full overview of what all of these mean. So for the bid-ask spread, what I'm looking for when I'm trading options is I want to make sure that the bid and ask is tight. What I mean by tight is it's 35 and 37. That's only a $2 difference. Now that is tight. If it is difference of, let's say 35 and 55, then that's not really good because you're going to get filled for somewhere in the middle, typically $45. In that case, you would lose about $10. Here, you're only losing about $1, if at that, right? So this is a very good bid-ask spread. The closer they are, the better it is for you. Now, the implied volatility is 101. This is sky high. I mean, if you look at Tesla, it's probably around 70. Coca-Cola is around 18. Amazon is around 40. Palantir is 2.5 times more volatile than Amazon stock. That makes this company a very good stock to trade options on, and that's why we've been making so much money in the Discord. It's because I'm picking stocks with high implied volatility, but also I want to make sure that I'm looking at the technicals and the Greeks. Here, the delta is 0.28. So selling a put option right here means that I'm going to be successful about 72% of the time, and 28% of the time, I'm going to have to take the shares. Only 28% of the time? Now that's not bad. That means 3 out of 4 times I'm going to keep making money. 1 out of 4 times, I'm going to get put the shares. If I get put the shares, that's fine because I like the stock. Whenever you sell put options, make sure that you like the stock. It's very important because if you like the stock, nothing can really go bad, right? The worst that happens is you get the stock. You get put 100 shares, which for Palantir would only be about $900. Let me click into this $35 premium, and as you will see here, it's not even $950. That's because you're collecting $35 to just get into this position. So the actual max loss is only $915. This is a strategy that I would use to build up a small and medium portfolio, heck, even a large portfolio. I'm a big fan of Palantir. This is a stock that I trade very often in Discord. If you're interested, just join my free email list. I send emails out all the time, 3 times a week. And also, if you want to see me live trade and you want to get coached by me, then there's another link in there for my option income coaching academy. Thanks so much for watching.